Welcome to Big Money Monday on the Savvy Radio Show. Get ready, you are about to get paid. This show is designed to increase your financial intelligence every Monday.
Okay, you're back, and you should be. I think this is going to be one of my favorite episodes, Pat. First of all, if you don't know Pat Poynton, he is a regular, big-time good friend of mine, and I believe private master of raising, private money master. Ooh, I like that. 12-year veteran on the radio, been doing real estate since you were born. Isn't that cool that your parents were doing real estate and you were in the womb?
Well, yeah, about the time I was born, I think, actually.
And, just fascinating, all the great stories that you have, all the things that you've done. It's awesome. Well, anyway, this is going to be a great episode. The reason why is that we're going to be talking about private lending, terminology, lingo. The buzzwords that you say in your real estate group are going to hurt you later in your private money presentation.
Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Excited.
So, all right. So, when you're talking to somebody about private money, and they, do you explain every word, or do you just shoot it out and say something, and then they look dumbfounded, and you say something like for example, I was talking to a real estate investor, and they're going down. They're losing 7 houses in a foreclosure, and they're going bankrupt. And I was like, listen, I can take that over subject to. And this individual had no idea what I was talking about. Never heard of subject to. And my first inkling, I'm like, go Google it up. Well, that's probably a terrible thing to do, because if I tell them to go Google it up, they'll find negativity of what a subject to is. So how do you handle a private money? You got a lender, he's got money, he's basically pre-qualifying you as a real estate investor, but they don't know the lingo. What words do you educate them? How do you handle them?
Well, the first thing you've got to realize is they're not going to know the lingo. Because if they knew the lingo, they would already be a private investor and be doing something with somebody else, probably, because
True.
You're going to have to go to people that are not doing this, or else they're going to be using the money themselves, or they're going to be loaning it out or whatever. So the people you're dealing with have probably never done this before.
Okay.
So you need to think about talking in terms that make sense to them. The first of those that I use all the time is I put you in the position of being the bank.
So you start painting a picture for them.
Of them being the bank.
Okay.
And I explain the bank takes your money, puts it in a savings account, pays you 1% or 0.5%, and they'll always have some comment about the low money they're getting on savings accounts or CDs. And then they turn around and they loan it to me on my real estate, and they charge me maybe 7%. And the bank keeps the 6% between the one they're paying you and the 7 that I'm paying them. That's what the bank makes. What I propose is, why don't you become the bank? You'll get to keep all that money, and I'll make as good a deal as I ever did.
All right. So I get the analogy. It makes sense. What if someone's scared of the bank?
Well, I guess I would say to you that not everybody's going to do the deal.
True.
Now, you're going to have to either get them to trust you and have confidence in you, or they're not going to do the deal. Now, how you do that? It's a matter of how you perceive yourself, how you present yourself, and it's a matter of what their preconceived notions are. And if they're kind of opposed to what you want to do, you just say thank you for your time and you go on to somebody else, because not everybody is going to want to do what we do.
Sure. Well, hopefully you'll pre-qualify them before you go down the road.
I try to, sure.
Well, you pre-qualify them, even if they have the money. They may be interested and hot and excited, but they don't have the money, so you're wasting everyone's time.
Oh, sure. You need to pre-qualify them. Do they have some money? But the other thing you want to do is you want to try to meet with them face-to-face. This is not something that works real well over the telephone or over the internet, in my opinion. I don't want them to go to see some video. I want them to meet with me face-to-face. I want to look at them. I want them to look at me. I prefer that we have a visit on neutral ground, say a Starbucks or some place. And then if they like what I have been talking about, then perhaps we get in the car and go look at a property or two, and then they can see what I'm talking about as far as a property or two is concerned.
All right.
That's the way I try to do it.
All right. You mentioned something that's interesting, or we both did, pre-qualification. How do you pre-qualify a private lender? I think that'd be a great way to learn. Do you say how much money you have in a bank account?
Well,
show me your checkbook, your registry.
They seldom ever tell you what they have.
Well, they always. I would assume, and that they start low and they inch it up.
Well, yes. Normally, we have an old saying in our office called "found money." After they'd done some deals with us, they found even more money than what you first thought they had because they didn't tell you up front they had $400,000. They told you they had 30. If they liked the 30, then they found 50. If they liked the 50 and the 30, then they found another 300.
And then it goes all the way up to a couple 100,000, which is just fascinating because they started off with nothing, like 10.
Now, what I tell them is, I normally can't use or make a deal with somebody who doesn't have enough money to fund the house I'm going to buy.
Completely. And you like it all in one time,
I
one
prefer
investor.
to have it all from one investor.
And I think you hide under the SEC.
Well, there is an SEC regulations if you become a security.
Right.
And that would be if you have a bunch of undivided interest in a property. Say you had 30 people with $1,000 apiece, you would almost certainly be considered a security. Where if you had one person with a $30,000 loan on a $30,000 house, that would be a mortgage. And that would be considered different than a security.
Okay.
And not only that, it would be a nightmare if you had to be foreclosed. If you lost the property, like the person you were talking about lost their property, can you imagine 30 of you arguing over what to do with this property? Okay. As I was saying, if you had, God forbid that you lost a property, people are going to want to know what happens. So you may as well bring it out and tell them. If you have a first mortgage on the property, you're in first position. Sure. Nobody else is in first position.
And that's an advantage for them.
Yes, that gives them the protection. Nobody's ahead of them. They're going to be able to take that property and either sell it, rent it, live in it, anything they want to do with it to secure their investment, their money they put out originally. For instance, let's just assume that God forbid you had a $30,000 house, you rented it for $400 a month, and you lost it for some reason, and I had made the mortgage. Then I would own the property by right of foreclosure. I would be in first position. My money, the renter that's in that house, he may be happy. He's fine. His job's fine. He's paying his rent, but he's paying it to me now instead of to you. Now, if I'm happy with that arrangement, then we just go down the road. That's it. Now, if I want to sell this house to someone else, then I just call my real estate agent and have it listed for 35 or 40 or whatever and sell it and take my money and be down the road. Right. So it's a very safe deal, where if you had a whole bunch of people with small loans, they'd be squabbling about who gets what do we want to do with it, and people wouldn't like that, and I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, just keep it simple.
Sure.
All right, let's get back to pre-qualifying someone. In case today's episode is over private money lingo, terminology, keeping it simple for them so them to understand. How do you pre-qualify? What questions do you ask them, even if are they available to lend? Like they're interested in what you're doing. Do you ask them a couple key things?
Sure.
Like what's the questions that you
first thing
evoke out of them?
I try to tell people is, this is a great investment. If you or somebody has some money sitting in CDs or whatever, perhaps you should look at real estate investments because they can be very, very simple. As opposed, and most people say, well, I tried rent houses or I heard somebody, I don't want to be. I understand. All you want to do is get a check every month. And so there's a way that you can be protected by the safety and security of real estate and just get a check every month and not have to do anything. If you'd like to know more about that, just ask me and we'll talk about it. So that's something I would say to you on the elevator, in the parking garage,
right. So
wherever.
You basically you prompt them, but then how do you? Okay, I'm interested, Mr. Pat.
Okay. Well, the first thing, in order to save you time and me time, I rarely ever buy a property that I don't need at least $30,000 mortgage.
So you throw out a number,
and I am sympathetic if you only have $12,000, but I don't buy any property and where I could use a first mortgage of $12,000.
You know what's interesting? I love that you said the $12,000. Just another side note. I talked to an investor the other day at the landlord lunch, and he's like, hey, do you have any private money you want to lend? I said, no, I just lend it out, but I have $15,000 left in my in my IRA. Sure enough, the dude, like 5 days later, hey, would you loan me 12% for $15,000 for 12 months?
Okay. But the point is, most of the time, I don't buy anything where I'm going to want to put that small a mortgage on.
No, I agree.
Because I'm trying to buy a little nicer houses. And so I just tell them, the kind of houses that I normally buy, my minimum loan amount would be about $30,000. Most of my houses are worth between $40,000 and $60,000. Consequently, I'm looking for a mortgage of $30,000 to $40,000, maybe even $50,000 on one. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Okay, so that's how you qualify. Yeah, I think I can do that. 30,000.
I might could do that, or maybe I could do 2/3 of it, and my wife's sister could do the other third. Now, I might do a second if it's a direct family member, brother, sister, mother-in-law, father-in-law, those kind of things, where the same family would be together.
Would you put them all in first position?
No. I'd put one of them in first position and one of them in second position. You're not going to put them all in first position. That can't be done unless you make it a security.
Right.
If you put them in, you can have a first mortgage, a second mortgage, a 33rd mortgage if you have 33 people that want to do that.
Sure.
But it would be more complicated. Now, I don't want to have you in second position behind me in first position and us having no relationship.
All right. To continue on with the pre-qualification, you said something earlier. You said about that the sister will loan money. Like, I know a gal that is renting out money in Oklahoma City, that she's tapped out, but she's using her parents' fund to loan out money too.
Sure, that's
that
fine. That's
thing?
very common. Many people that do business with me, the several members of their family are doing business with me.
All because of the success of
one of them started, and then there were others. And many times there are others that are friends with somebody they've known for years and years, another couple, for instance. And so they've done business with me now. They've introduced me to their friend, and their friend is now doing business with me. And sometimes they've introduced me to another friend.
All right. Well, any other way you pre-qualify?
Well, I pretty much do it just that way. I simply say, I need to have some idea what sort of a loan. I don't want to call you when I need a $60,000 mortgage and find out you've got $30,000. That doesn't accomplish anything. So I need a rough idea of what you would be able to invest.
Ooh,
now, and they'll say, well, I'll have $100,000. I say, well, then if I call you for 330s or 150 and 40 or whatever, I'll know that you could possibly be interested. I don't want to waste your time when I need $100,000 and you got 30. On the same token, I don't want to waste assuming that you have 30 when you only have 10. So, I'll need to know just a little bit. I don't need to know where it's at or anything else. I just need to have some idea what you're looking at.
All right. Man, you brought up an awesome point. When you call someone when you need the money, how does that conversation go? Let's do that.
I'll call it. No, normally this would be somebody that I'm experienced with.
Let's role play.
Okay.
So you've already pre-qualified.
Stephen, I've got this house at XYZ Street, and I've got it under contract, and I'm going to need $40,000. The house will rent for, in my opinion, $675 to $700 a month. If I put it up for sale, it'll sell for about $73,000. I'm looking for $40,000.
So you call people up, hey, I'm looking for this amount of money. I'm going to do this, and then do you throw out a number of what the return is?
Yes. I said, now I pay 6% pretty much. I'm paying 6%. That would mean if you loan me your $40,000, the payment would be whatever it is. I'd calculate it before I ever called them.
Okay.
It's $410, just imaginary payment of $410. And that would be paid to you each and every month, or to your IRA if it's in an IRA. And I'll handle all the IRA paperwork for you if that's something you need to have done. And does that sound like something that would be of interest to you, Stephen?
Okay, interesting. To me, you sound like you're selling, like, just from the outside looking in or hearing this, you sound like you're like a stockbroker calling in. I got an option.
Very much the same thing. Very much the same thing.
Sophistication.
They're used to hearing it that way. Now, if I said, you say, well, I might be interested. Why don't we do this, Stephen? Before you decide whether you're interested or not, you would have the money to do this if you decide you want to go forward. Is that correct? Did I understand you there? Yes. Yeah, that you did say that.
Yeah. So
okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we meet for lunch and let me take you to this property and show it to you in the flesh? And I'll bring the paperwork as if you're going to do it so that you can read the paperwork and see what it looks like.
Okay. So that's the deal. That's the deal maker for you. I see your passion. The passion is to get them to the property. That they see it, they believe it.
Would you give me $50,000 over the phone and never seen anything of mine, Stephen?
Well, people do it all day in the stock market, the boiler room.
Yeah, but after they've gotten comfortable with the stock market has built this rapport. Even if you've been at some other stockbroker, you still had to do it there. The reason is they don't have anything to show you.
No, I agree.
They got paper. They got nothing else.
And
I have a great property to show you. And on the way, Stephen, I will generally stop by another one of my properties that's looking good and show you that one.
When I'm finishing
and I will say, finished property. And I will say, now, Stephen, this house is going to look very much like the one we just left that was all done. Unfortunately, this house is in the beginning stages. You can see it needs paint, it needs carpet, it needs the lawn mowed, the trees trimmed, or whatever. But when I get done with it, it's going to be very similar to that one we just left.
Okay, awesome. So then, come look at the paperwork. What paperwork are you talking about?
I'll bring the paperwork with me.
What is that paperwork?
It's a note and a real estate mortgage.
Sample or one for that exact property?
I'll make it up for that exact property.
Yeah, that's my boy. That's my man, Pat.
If you'd like to sign it on the location, we'll get you a notary on the way back.
That's how I do it.
Absolutely.
I haven't done that on private money. I do that on contracts.
Always.
I mean, if I pre-qualify you on the phone, and I know that I have a good idea that we're going to get it done, I'm going to have a contract ready.
Well, let me tell you, I learned this from my father, and what he'd made me do in high school, he made me type a contract for every single lot in every development that he did. All I had to do was pencil in your name. If you were buying lot 1, block 1, it was there. The price, everything was already typed in. All you had to do was type in one sentence, sign it, give me your money. Because he said, if you have it all made, it's easy for the person to say yes. If you don't have it all made, it's easy for them to say, well, let me get back to you next week or whatever.
Basic sales, assume the sale. All right, let's get back to the original terminology.
Yeah, exactly.
First lien, people ask you, what does a lien mean?
Okay, well, it's a first mortgage. Not a lien, it's a first mortgage.
So don't even say the word lien.
No, it's a first mortgage.
Okay.
A mortgage is an instrument recognized in the state of Oklahoma. There's a standard mortgage form for the state of Oklahoma, and it gives them the right to this property if you fail to pay. It is a collateral agreement between you and them. The mortgagee and the mortgagor are the two terms that define the collateral agreement, which is this piece of property, block 1 such and such, also known as 1234 Anywhere Street, Midwest City, Oklahoma, is standing good for the amount of indebtedness, which is whatever up there is $40,000 or whatever it is.
Okay.
It's a hard form. It is secured by a promissory note. It actually secures the promissory note, pardon me.
So you're giving them three things. Well, technically, there's a lien, but there's not. There's a lien, but that's created by the mortgage. And then what other thing you just said? There's another.
You're giving them this. You're giving them a promissory note.
A promissory note.
That creates the lien. That is the obligation for payment. The mortgage is a security instrument securing the lien.
So three of the basic are the same things. They're doing all
the word lien is just a common denominator there. You don't need the word lien. I would call it evidence of indebtedness. This mortgage is an evidence of indebtedness. It says I owe you this many dollars, and I'm paying it at this interest rate, and it's due in this period of time. That's what the note says. The mortgage says, in addition to my promise of payment in the note, I'm giving you this piece of collateral, where you'll have the first claim on this piece of collateral in addition to my promise. If my promise turns out to be no good, the collateral will still be there protecting you. That's what separates it from a stock, a bond, anything else.
Okay. Do they ever ask for an appraisal?
I've had them ask for them. I generally don't provide one. Sure. What I often will provide them is the fair market value listed on the assessor's website. That doesn't cost me anything. If it were a big, complicated piece of property, I'd probably give them an appraisal. But I normally don't. Now, does that mean that you don't always want to do that? If you do, fine. I mean, if it's something where you're getting an appraisal anyway for your own protection, like something you were buying that you wanted an appraisal yourself, I'd include that.
Okay.
But normally I won't. Here's the thing. If you don't believe I know what I'm doing and that I'm paying the right price for this stuff, you ain't going to loan me the money anyway.
Sure. All right, let's keep on moving on the terminology, lingo, so on and so forth. We throw out the word LTV a lot. A lot of people never heard of LTV. Do you explain it to them? Loan
to value.
Yeah. Do they ask that? I mean, obviously that doesn't come
sometimes I do, and here's what I normally tell them.
And how do you equate the number to them? Because they may be confused.
Here's what I tell them. Here's the assessor's website. Says the fair market value of this property is $60,000. Now I'm buying it over here for $35,000, and I'm putting $5,000 for the repairs in it, and your mortgage is for $40,000, covering both of those. So the difference between $40,000 and what the county assessor says it's worth is my equity. That's the loan is for $40,000. The value is for $60,000. The difference between the two is the loan to value ratio.
And so you've explained that to people before. So there's basically, in my world, I know it's 20% equity.
Well,
do you sell that on them on that? I mean, do you
what
sell
I tell
them?
them is, now, here's what it is. What makes this secure is, first off, almost everybody in the world would give you the $40,000 for a $60,000 property.
Yeah.
So you won't have any trouble turning it into that.
They may not understand that. They don't. They may not. I'm just saying they may not have heard the word LTV before.
But here's the thing: you don't use fancy buzzwords. You just say you have the security of the value of the property being 60. The assessor says it is. Oklahoma County's website says it is. When it's done, it'll almost certainly be worth that.
Sure.
Now, when it is, you can call your real estate agent. He can come and sell it. He can take his commission, and you'll have more than the $40,000 left over.
Sure. And
how much safer does it get?
Yeah, and then I would say, and I have never done that. I haven't defaulted on a loan, so there's no reason. No. But I'm just worst case scenario because you're entrusting me with your money, and I want to take good care of that.
The reason I'm going into this with you in some detail is the way I say this is like this. The reason I'm going into this in some detail with you is because I'm trying to show you the difference between a real estate investment and a stock or bond investment, which all you got is a piece of paper.
Have you ever converted someone that was so passionate about stocks over to real estate?
Sometimes, usually after they've had a bath.
Yeah, of course.
And when 911 happened, I had a year's waiting list to invest with me because people took such a bath in the stock market. People that had talked to me and had not loaned to me had called me up by droves the week after 911 wanting to put their money at work. After Enron, I had several people that lost tons of money in Enron and were, I believe, left the stock market and never returned.
Sure.
And some of those people are still loaning me money today.
All right, let's bring up ARV.
Okay.
So do they know what that is?
No.
They don't know.
And
I wouldn't even tell them that.
You're getting off into technical terms that mean nothing to the average person. Now, what I would say is when this property is finished,
but I'm just saying this is why we're having this episode because we're trying to educate you, rookie. You're a good real estate investor, but you're a rookie private lender or private money borrower, and you might throw out ARV, and that may.
Yeah, what I'm telling you is keep it simple, stupid. That's what I tell myself all the time. And what I'm saying is, you don't want to know what that means. What you want to know is the property going to sell for more than I have loaned against it?
Now, ultimately, your goal is to hold the property. Are all these loans right out the gate?
My goal is normally to flip the property.
For a profit, for a flipper.
Yeah, I'd rather flip than own. I'm not a real fan of rentals.
And you just do volume?
I think rentals make you wealthy. I watch them make Robert Elder wealthy. I watch them make you wealthy. I just don't like them.
Sure.
I don't like tenants. To be honest with you, I'll be up front. I don't like tenants.
Yeah, that's why you like subject too.
I like to do something where I can get paid and move on.
Or a contract for deed. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. So, is there any other things that we need to know that may come up? A question that they may not understand.
Sure.
And you try to explain it. What's normally, a common question?
Well, you'll get into two sets of people. Okay. You get into one set that has the money themselves. That's either in a CD or a savings account.
Liquid, instantaneously liquid?
Pretty much liquid assets, okay?
Not on an ARV. I mean RA.
Not in an IRA. These are people with money that's not in an IRA.
Okay. Which is rare.
And, well, it's not as rare as you think.
In my world, yeah, but I get you.
It's not as rare as you think.
Yeah,
believe me, it's not as rare as you think. Now, that's one group. And those people are going to need to have some help to wire transfer the money to the title company. And the first thing I tell them is, you don't give me any money.
That's right.
You give it to the title company. They hold the money. I pay them a fee to do that. Okay. And you never give me your money directly, ever. So, what happens is I will help you have the money sent from where you have it today, which is at the local bank or money market account or whatever you have it in like that, to the title company. I will go in, sign the note mortgage at the title company. They will disperse the funds, file the mortgage, give it back to you. Okay? Now, if your money's in an IRA, it's a little bit more complicated, but I do it all the time. My office staff will help you prepare the paperwork that you need to submit to transfer your money to a self-directed custodian, and then they will prepare the paperwork necessary for you to authorize the self-directed custodian to wire transfer the money to the title company. And we're back to the same place again.
Yeah, it's just safer. I never touch the money.
I never touch the money. Ever.
All right, so those are the two things that I think in private money is the most powerful: collateral and title company.
Oh, well,
because like it's not. I mean, you're not what you know.
Now there's two other things. Another one is I'll always provide a fire insurance policy, and you'll be listed on the fire insurance policy in the mortgagee clause, which says that to the amount of your indebtedness, if it's a total loss, that money is paid to you, and the balance is paid to me. Let me give you an example. We had a $60,000 property. It burns to the ground.
Okay.
You get your $40,000 right up front.
Mm-hmm.
I get the $20,000, and I get the lot.
Sure.
And that's just only fair. And then I can either build another house and you can loan on it if you want to or not. But this transaction is over with. The insurance company's paid you and they paid me. And your name is on that fire policy.
Okay. And then, of course, they get the interest, whatever was
certainly they get the interest.
Deemed at that time. And I would throw that in there just to give them
I pay the interest. Most of the time I pay the interest monthly.
Okay. So let's get back to a different type of private lender. Do you ever deal with a debt equity? Or, you got a debt, which is who we want to go after, lender, and an equity private lender. Have you dealt with any of those?
Now, you're talking about an equity lender who takes a portion of your deal?
Yes.
I have never given anybody a portion of one of my deals. I've had some
that
wanted to do that.
All right.
If they're doing that kind of thing, I'm better off just go with the bank.
Sure.
I don't need to do that particularly. If I had a property that was so good that I could no other way but that, I might consider it. But so far, I've not. Now, I will tell you this up front. There are some people out there who hold themselves out to be private money people, but what they really are hard money lenders in disguise. And you may be one, Stephen. I don't know. But I'm not interested in hard money.
You just called me out.
I am not interested in hard money. If I can't get a better deal from a private investor than I get from the bank, then rain on you.
And I think...
now, maybe other people are not in that position.
I can't believe you just called me out, confessed that. And I think that's true. Let's just narrow that down. Anyone that's a real estate investor is loaning you money is a hard money lender. They're not a private lender.
Yes.
Because technically.
That's right.
That's right. Right. Because I'm charging 12 to a guy, Mm-hmm. A real private, if you are trying to be a private lender borrower, you should be at 6 or 8%. I think anything over 8% is hard money.
It is.
In my mind.
I'm not going to pay it.
Because when I started this game, 20 years ago, 17 or whatever, I was paying 10. And I never had any equity. It was going nowhere. So anyway, all right, let's wrap this episode up because we got a lot more to cover. So anything else that would seem that they're like, huh? What is that? People pretty much know what the word mortgage is. Mm-hmm. Pretty much
most of them have a mortgage or had one at some time.
Yeah, and they probably, if they have ability to loan you money, they probably purchased a home before.
That's likelihood.
And most people have only purchased one home, maybe 2 to 3 homes in their entire life, compared to the many transactions that you have done. Closing company, title company, they're aware of those terminologies. Mm-hmm. They're aware of wiring money. They know what a CD does. I think that's everything that they need to know.
It's pretty much. And, you don't have to have an answer to every single question. If somebody gives you something you don't know, I wouldn't lie about it. I'd simply say, nobody's ever asked me that. Let me get back to you tomorrow with an answer.
Sure. But ultimately, I think if you can hammer this home, ladies and gentlemen out there, you've got to meet them face to face. I think that's the idea. I know you've said that almost every episode, every time we get together. And it just makes logical sense. I look back at the banks that have vetted me out, the banks that really are real estate friendly, that are loaning me money. They've driven to my office. They've touched the chair. They've looked in my office. It was awkward per se.
They've looked driven at your houses.
We've went to lunch. They wanted to look at property, and I think it just solidifies a relationship. And so if you get anything out of this episode, we were kind of wild today. Get them in person to look at the deal physically.
If they're not willing to do that, they're not very serious.
Well, a friend of mine is getting private money right now, and I'm just so frustrated because I did it. I wish I would have known you 17 years ago. I've known you for about 5 or 10 years, or 5 or so years now, 7 years now, and I've just neglected private money. It just seems like impossible. This student of mine, right out the gate, first month, gets a $100,000 deal, gets it under contract for $60,000, and gets private money, and that private lender didn't even look at the property.
Well, that happens, but the majority of the time,
I think you should gear up for that.
I want them to look at the property. Here's the thing. Most people are not going to give you a lot of money if it's an arm's length transaction. Now, if it's your brother-in-law, your mother, somebody, maybe. But I'm talking about people that you had no prior relationship with. They need to physically see what you do and understand it.
Okay. How about have you dealt with anybody out of state?
Yes.
And they can't see it. So how do you send them pictures?
No, they come and look at it.
So that's your motorande. Or motorande, what it is.
I want them to know. Now, after 1 or 2, they don't. Now, most of my people, I don't know when I've last showed a property to an investor, but I use the same investors over and over and over, and consequently, most of them don't really know nor care.
And I was
but they did to start with.
And I was talking to a private guy that borrows a lot of private money, Brian Nix, the other day, because he's just so jazzed up. I'm so excited that he's listening to these podcasts. And he said that he's got a $200,000 note out right now, and the guy's so ready for him to turn it. I mean, he's thinking, Brian's thinking in his mind, okay, I'm about to refi this out because he's getting a loan on it. And that he knows that private lender is going to be he's having a problem that he can't go buy another property because he wants to keep that private lender moving. I mean, I think that's an amazing thing. What kind of pressure is that?
Well,
hey, I got to go find another deal to fulfill my private lender's goals.
I told you in 2011 or 2001 when the towers were attacked that I had a 1-year waiting period.
Yeah, fabulous.
And I just couldn't use it. I mean, the fact that you wanted to give me your money, if I couldn't find something I wanted to buy, I just couldn't borrow the money.
Well, and you don't want to jam up your system, and you got
right.
6 houses going, and you got 2 crews.
I probably had $500,000 or more that just found something else to do with their money by the time I got to them.
Sure,
but that's okay. That's a nice problem to have.
Right. You know, and I've been teaching this guy, and I was like, you call 3 or 4 people. Because some people are going to, pull their feet, drag their feet. Some people are going to want 1,000,001 questions. But I think out of 4 people that we knew that we semi-pre-qualified, and he found $60,000.
Yep.
Outstanding. All right. So that was our episode today. Know the lingo. Hopefully you learned a lot. Come listen to the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter @LandlordBook and always be buying assets.